The starship Wanderer's hope drifted through the cosmic void like a dying ember against black velvet. Captain Zara Voss pressed her palm against the cold viewport, watching distant stars blur past as her vessel limped between solar systems. The ship's hull bore scars from countless micrometeorite impacts, and several sections had been patched with salvaged metal from derelict craft she'd encountered during her 7-year journey through uncharted space. Her oxygen recycler wheezed with mechanical exhaustion, producing air that tasted metallic and stale. The food synthesizer had broken down 3 weeks ago, leaving her with emergency rations that would last maybe another month if she rationed carefully. The fusion reactor that powered her ship operated at 30% efficiency, barely providing enough energy to maintain life support and basic navigation systems. Zara had been alone for so long that she'd started talking to the ship's computer as if it were human. "Status report area," she said, settling into the pilot's chair that had molded to her body over years of use. "Life support systems functioning at minimal capacity," the artificial intelligence responded in its calm, synthesized voice. "Estimated time until complete system failure. 42 days, 16 hours. She laughed bitterly. The sound echoed strangely in the cramped cockpit. 42 days. She'd been traveling for 7 years searching for any sign of intelligent life, following radio signals and gravitational anomalies that led nowhere. Earth had sent her on this mission with great fanfare, calling her humanity's ambassador to the stars. The plan was simple: find alien civilizations, establish contact, and return with proof that humans weren't alone in the universe. Instead, she'd found nothing but empty worlds and dead space. Her communications array could no longer reach Earth across such vast distances. For all practical purposes, she was the loneliest human being who had ever lived. The proximity alarm chimed softly. Zara's heart jumped as she leaned forward to check the sensors. A massive object appeared on her screens, too regular in shape to be an asteroid. As her ship's computer processed the data, the image resolved into something that made her breath catch. It was a space station, but unlike anything in human-designed databases. The structure resembled a vast crystalline flower blooming in space, with translucent petals that seemed to pulse with inner light. Each petal was the size of a city, connected to a central hub by bridges that sparkled like spun glass. Energy readings showed the station was very much alive and operational. Zara's hands trembled as she tried to establish communication. She broadcast on multiple frequencies, cycling through mathematical sequences, music, and basic pictographs that any technological civilization might recognize. For hours, she received only silence. Then, as her ship drifted closer to the station, something extraordinary happened. Sections of the crystalline structure began to shift and reconfigure themselves. What had appeared solid became fluid, with new pathways opening like veins of light. A docking bay materialized from what had been smooth surface, perfectly sized for her small vessel. "Unknown vessel. This is Station Keeper Thal." A voice spoke directly into her mind rather than through her communication system. The words felt warm and somehow musical. "We perceive your distress. Request permission to render assistance." Zara nearly cried with relief. After 7 years of silence, someone had finally answered. "This is Captain Zara Voss of Earth Vessel Wanderer's Hope. I accept your offer of assistance. My ship is dying and I'm running out of time. Approach Docking Bay 7. We will guide you safely within." As her ship entered the alien station, Zara saw beings moving behind transparent walls. They were tall and slender, with skin that seemed to shift between silver and blue like liquid metal. They had large luminous eyes and moved with a fluid grace that reminded her of dancers underwater. Despite their alien appearance, something in their posture conveyed kindness and curiosity rather than threat. The docking procedure completed with a gentle bump that barely registered on her instruments. Atmospheric readings showed the bay had filled with a breathable mixture similar to Earth's atmosphere. When the airlock cycled open, Zara stepped onto alien deck plating for the first time in her life. 3 beings waited for her, their forms seeming to shimmer slightly in the soft lighting. The tallest stepped forward and spoke, its voice now audible through some kind of translation field. "Welcome, traveler from distant stars. I am Thal, keeper of this haven. We have watched your approach for many cycles and sensed your isolation across the void. Such loneliness is known to us, for we too have wandered far from our origins." Zara removed her helmet, breathing alien air that tasted surprisingly sweet. "My name is Zara. I come from a world called Earth. I've been searching for others like you for 7 years." Thal's large eyes seemed to reflect infinite compassion. 7 years alone in the darkness. Your species must possess remarkable strength of spirit. Come, let us tend to your needs and learn of your journey. There is much we would share with one who has traveled so far in search of connection. As they led her deeper into the station, Zara noticed that the walls themselves seemed alive, pulsing gently with bioluminescent patterns. The air hummed with a harmonious frequency that made her feel more peaceful than she had in years. For the first time since leaving Earth, she allowed herself to hope that her long journey might have been worth the sacrifice. The medical bay where Thal led Zara defied every assumption she'd made about alien technology. Instead of cold metal tables and harsh lights, the room resembled a garden grove with living walls that breathed softly and surfaces that felt warm to the touch. Healing pods grew like enormous flowers from the floor, their petals opening to reveal comfortable resting chambers filled with a luminous mist. "Your physical form shows signs of prolonged stress and nutritional deficiency," Thal observed, running a crystalline device over Zara's body. The scanner hummed with gentle harmonies rather than the harsh beeping of human medical equipment. 7 years of isolation have taken their toll. We can repair this damage, but first you must rest and allow our healing gardens to restore what has been lost. Zara hesitated at the edge of one of the pods. "Will it hurt?" Thal's expression conveyed what she interpreted as amusement. "Pain is a concept foreign to our healing methods. The restoration process will feel like floating in warm sunlight while dreaming of your home world." As she settled into the pod, a gentle mist enveloped her body. The sensation was indeed like floating in liquid sunshine, and for the first time in years, every ache and pain in her body simply melted away. Through the translucent walls of the pod, she could see other beings moving about the station, their forms graceful and purposeful. While she rested, Thal shared the history of his people through a direct mental connection that felt as natural as conversation. The Valerians had once been explorers like herself, but their entire civilization had been forced to flee their dying homeworld aboard massive arc ships. They had wandered space for generations, establishing way stations for other travelers they encountered along their journey. "We learned long ago that isolation is the greatest destroyer of hope," Thal explained, his thoughts flowing like warm water through her mind. "When we detected your approach, we felt the weight of your loneliness across vast distances. It called to us as one lost soul calls to another." During the healing process, Zara learned that the Valerians possessed technology that seemed like magic compared to human science. Their ships and stations were grown rather than built, cultivated from living crystal that could reshape itself according to need. They had mastered the art of mental communication across species barriers and developed healing methods that could restore both body and spirit. When she emerged from the healing pod 3 days later, Zara felt stronger than she had in years. Her muscle tone had improved, her skin glowed with health, and her mind felt clearer and more focused. But more importantly, the crushing weight of loneliness that had pressed down on her for so long had lifted significantly. "Your ship has also been restored," Thal informed her as they walked through corridors lined with bioluminescent artwork. "Our bioengineers have integrated our living technology with your mechanical systems. The fusion reactor now operates at 150% of original efficiency, and your life support systems have been upgraded with self-repairing organic components." Zara was amazed when she saw the Wanderer's hope. The hull had been seamlessly repaired, and new sections that looked like crystalline growths had been added to various systems. The interior glowed with soft natural light, and the air recycler hummed with the same musical harmony she'd noticed throughout the station. "We have also installed a gift," Thal continued, leading her to what had once been her cramped storage bay. The space had been expanded and transformed into something resembling a greenhouse. "This is a life garden. It will provide you with fresh food, clean air, and most importantly, living companionship during your journey." The garden was breathtakingly beautiful, filled with plants that seemed to combine the best features of Earth flora with alien designs that pulsed with gentle light. Some of the plants bore fruit that smelled incredibly appetizing, while others seemed to exist purely for their aesthetic beauty. "But why?" Zara asked, overwhelmed by their generosity. "I'm just one human. My species hasn't even achieved faster than light travel yet. What could you possibly gain from helping me?" Thal's large eyes reflected the garden's soft glow. In our long wandering, we have learned that the universe measures civilizations not by their technology, but by their willingness to reach out to others despite fear and uncertainty. Your species sent you alone into the dark unknown, seeking connection rather than conquest. This speaks of a wisdom that transcends technological achievement. Over the following days, Zara learned that the Valerians had been monitoring human radio transmissions for decades. They had observed humanity's struggles, wars, and gradual progress toward unity. Despite their flaws, humans had shown a remarkable tendency to help one another during times of crisis, a trait the Valerians valued highly. "We see great potential in your people," another Valerian named Senna explained during one of their daily conversations. "But potential alone is not enough. Humanity stands at a crossroads, facing challenges that could either unite your species or destroy it. Environmental collapse, resource depletion, social fragmentation, these are trials we ourselves faced long ago." Zara realized they were preparing her for something important. "You want me to return to Earth with your technology?" "Not our technology," Thal corrected gently. "Our knowledge, shared in a way that allows humanity to develop its own solutions. We will not simply give you advanced tools that you do not understand. Instead, we offer wisdom that your scientists can use to accelerate their own discoveries." The Valerians had prepared data crystals containing fundamental principles of bioengineering, sustainable energy, and ecological restoration. The information was carefully structured to guide human research rather than replace it, ensuring that humanity would grow into advanced technology rather than becoming dependent on alien gifts. "But there is something more urgent," Senna said, her mental voice carrying undertones of concern. "Your homeworld faces an extinction event within the next century. The atmospheric changes your industrial civilization has triggered will soon reach a tipping point from which recovery may be impossible." Zara felt her heart sink. She had left Earth 7 years ago, when climate change was a serious concern but not yet catastrophic. "How bad is it?" "Critical but not yet irreversible," Thal assured her. "The knowledge we share includes methods for atmospheric restoration that your people can implement if they act quickly and work together. But this requires unity of purpose across your entire species, something humans have rarely achieved." As her time on the station drew to a close, Zara understood that her mission had evolved far beyond simple first contact. She was being entrusted with the tools to save her species, but success would depend entirely on humanity's ability to overcome its divisions and work toward a common goal. The journey back to Earth took only 18 months thanks to the Valerian upgrades to her ship. The bioengineered propulsion system allowed the Wanderer's hope to achieve near light speeds, while the living hull protected her from the intense radiation of interstellar travel. During the long voyage, Zara studied the alien knowledge crystals and marveled at the elegant solutions they contained for problems that had plagued humanity for generations. When Earth finally appeared on her sensors, Zara's heart sank. Even from the edge of the solar system, she could see that the planet was in worse condition than when she'd left. The polar ice caps had shrunk dramatically, massive storm systems raged across the continents, and the ocean levels had risen enough to swallow several island nations entirely. Her arrival created immediate chaos in Earth's monitoring systems. The Wanderer's hope no longer matched any known human technology, and her ship's bioluminescent hull was impossible to hide from satellite observation. Within hours of entering Earth orbit, she was surrounded by military vessels from multiple nations, all demanding explanations for her impossible return. "This is Captain Zara Voss of the exploration vessel Wanderer's Hope," she broadcast on all emergency frequencies. "I have returned from deep space with critical information for the survival of humanity. I request immediate communication with the United Earth Council." The response was swift but chaotic. Every major government wanted exclusive access to her and her technology. The Chinese claimed her ship was their property, since they had helped fund the original mission. The Americans insisted she land at their facilities for debriefing. The Europeans demanded she submit to international inspection under space treaty protocols. Zara made a decision that surprised everyone. Instead of landing at any government facility, she positioned her ship in high orbit above the largest refugee camp in what had once been Bangladesh. Climate change had displaced hundreds of millions of people, and the camp stretched as far as satellite imagery could capture. I will share what I have learned with all of humanity, she announced in a global broadcast that interrupted normal programming worldwide. But first, let me show you what the universe thinks of species that abandon their own people. Using the Valerian biotechnology, Zara began releasing spores from her ship's life garden into Earth's upper atmosphere. The spores were designed to bond with existing cloud formations and accelerate the natural precipitation cycle. But with a crucial difference. The rain they produced carried microorganisms that could break down atmospheric pollutants and restore damaged soil. Within days, a gentle rain began falling over the refugee camps. But this was unlike any rain Earth had seen before. The water glowed faintly with bioluminescence and seemed to carry healing properties. Crops that had failed due to soil contamination began sprouting in areas where the rain fell. Rivers that had been poisoned by industrial runoff began running clear again. The global response was immediate and dramatic. Religious leaders declared the rain a divine miracle. Scientists scrambled to analyze the phenomenon and discovered microorganisms unlike anything in Earth's biosphere. Environmental monitoring stations detected rapid improvements in air quality wherever the rain had fallen. More importantly, the rain seemed to affect human psychology as well. The bioengineered microorganisms produced compounds that reduced stress and promoted cooperation when absorbed through the skin. In the refugee camps, conflicts that had simmered for years began resolving as people worked together to harness the benefits of the miraculous precipitation. World leaders who had been preparing for war over dwindling resources suddenly found their populations demanding cooperation instead of conflict. The rain spread across continents, carried by natural weather patterns, and everywhere it touched, the same pattern emerged: environmental restoration accompanied by increased human unity. The technology I carry was given to me by a species that faced the same crossroads humanity faces now, Zara explained in her address to the emergency session of the United Earth Council. They could have conquered us easily, but instead they chose to test whether we deserve to survive. The rain you've witnessed is just the beginning of what's possible if we work together. The data crystals she shared contained blueprints for atmospheric processors that could reverse climate change within decades, fusion reactors that could provide clean energy for millennia, and bioengineering techniques that could transform humanity's relationship with its environment. But all of it required global cooperation to implement effectively. The transformation wasn't immediate or without resistance. Some governments tried to claim exclusive rights to Valerian knowledge. Corporate interests attempted to monopolize the new technologies. Religious extremists declared the alien influence to be demonic. But the life-restoring rain continued to fall wherever it was most needed. And its psychological effects gradually wore down humanity's tendency toward division. The refugees who had been written off as burdens became the first to master the new agricultural techniques. Nations that had been enemies found themselves working together to implement atmospheric restoration projects. Zara established the Institute for Universal Cooperation in the former United Nations building, now relocated to higher ground due to sea level rise. The Institute became the center for distributing Valerian knowledge and coordinating humanity's response to the climate crisis. Years passed, and Earth slowly healed. The atmospheric processors worked exactly as promised, drawing excess carbon from the air and converting it into useful materials for construction and manufacturing. The bioengineered crops produced higher yields while actually improving soil quality. Ocean levels began to drop as polar ice reformed using Valerian climate manipulation techniques. Most remarkably, humanity itself seemed to be evolving. The psychological effects of prolonged exposure to the life-restoring rain had created a generation of humans who thought more collectively and cooperatively than any in recorded history. Wars didn't disappear entirely, but they became smaller, shorter, and increasingly focused on humanitarian rather than territorial goals. 15 years after her return, Zara stood in her office overlooking New Geneva, watching children play in streets that had once been battlegrounds. The air was cleaner than it had been in over a century. The sky was a deeper blue than she remembered from her childhood, and the sounds of laughter echoed off buildings grown from living crystal, using adapted Valerian techniques. Her communication console chimed with an incoming transmission from deep space. Thal's familiar mental voice filled her awareness, warm with approval and friendship. "Greetings, Ambassador Voss. We have observed your species' progress with great interest. The choice to share our gift freely rather than hoard it speaks well of human character. Your people have passed the first test of cosmic citizenship. The first test? Zara asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. Indeed. We have been monitoring dozens of developing civilizations across this galaxy. Several show promise, but like humanity once did, they teeter on the edge of self-destruction. The rain that saved your world can be replicated, but only by species who have proven themselves worthy of such responsibility. Zara understood. Humanity's salvation had been both an end and a beginning. They had been saved not just for their own sake, but so they could become the saviors of others facing the same crossroads. We accept the responsibility, she said without hesitation, looking out at the transformed Earth, where the skies regularly showered life-restoring rain and humanity worked together as never before. Zara smiled. Her 7-year journey into the dark had brought her home to a world brighter than the one she'd left. And now that light would spread to other worlds, carried by humans who had learned that true strength came not from conquest, but from compassion. The lonely interstellar traveler had been saved, and in being saved, had become the instrument of salvation for countless others yet to come. The cycle of hope would continue, spreading from star to star like ripples across the cosmic ocean, wherever sentient beings dared to reach out into the darkness, seeking connection rather than dominion.